Sounds good. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome. On behalf of group leaders, Winster Sabayo, Jenny Ware, Stuart Sherman Kahn, Nicole and Carol Moore, Jody Burmester, and myself, Wendy Kane, I would like to thank you for joining us today. And I do think from the registrations, we may have some folks that will be probably popping in a little bit later. Um, but our little mini group leader team is embodying the spirit of together we can and pulling our resources to bring these sessions to our district governor elects from groups 19, 20, 21, 25, 26, and 29. And maybe a reference to what Lion Ted said just a moment ago. The ladies are the ones getting things done today. So please know that Lions and group leaders Winster and Sherman have been very supportive of this process. But the benefits of being able to work together is to divide and cover things. So you got the benefit of the ladies of the small team today. We have a combination of district governor elects who have registered for these sessions who were either unable to attend the seminar in February in St. Charles, and some who did attend but are looking for a refresher. So we appreciate all of you that are here to learn together in preparation for an amazing year for your districts coming up for the 2023-2024 Lions year. Our first session was held in March and covered becoming a whole leader and managing your team. And unless Jody has it handy, I will actually, I'll do it right now because I got a copy and paste. I've got the links to both the recording and the resource documents if you would like those or if you didn't capture them previously. They are now in the chat that you can utilize if you need to. As the last time, please be advised that we are recording this session and we will make the video available to you and to the other district governor elects from our 6 groups. In today's session and the last of our makeup sessions, we're going to be recapping the balance of the in-person training that was held at the district governor elect seminar in St. Charles. And those topics include supporting membership, goals and action plans, leading change, and then a very brief highlights of Lions Clubs International Foundation, the service project planners that each of our sub teams in the groups completed, and a review of the 2023-2024 global priorities. So a lot to cover. Some of those again are very short segments that we'll use as kind of an intermission in between the 3 major topics of the membership, global action plans, and leading change. These will be interactive sessions, so we encourage. I know it looks like a couple of you may be driving and not able to readily participate verbally, so you're welcome to listen in, but we will have opportunities to participate. So that's why hopefully everybody's audio's checked out okay, and we encourage you to interact with the questions and discussion points that our group leaders have prepared. We are targeting to complete in about 2 hours and 15 minutes, but some of the group leaders will be able to stick around a little bit longer if you have any general questions that you'd like addressed or maybe that haven't been answered or questions that you might have as we look forward to Boston and things like that. We will also be referencing the participant manual throughout the session today. And actually, Jody's got a step ahead of me. Thank you for putting that in the chat. If you don't have it handy, your paper copy, you can download the electronic file of the manual with the link that Jody added. I would like to begin with brief introductions for each of us that are online here. And I'm going to ask you to share just your name in the country you're from and your group number. I'm going to begin with the group leaders, and then I'll call on you so you have a chance to unmute. I'm probably going to just go along in the order that you're showing up on my Zoom tic-tac-toe screen or gallery view. I'm not sure if everybody's in the same order on everybody's screens or not. Um, Hopefully so, and you'll be able to see a trend. So you've met me, Wendy Kane. I live in Tennessee, USA, and I mentor Group 19. So next up, Lion Jody.
I am Lion Jody Burmester. I live in Madison, Wisconsin, USA, about 2 hours north of our headquarters in Oak Brook. And I am group leader for group 29.
Ooh, thank you. Jenny.
Hi, Lion Jenny Ware from Rapid River, Michigan, USA. I am at least 3 or 4 hours north of Lion Jody, and we have sunshine. Sorry, Jody. And I'm the group leader for group 21, always having fun.
Ooh, nice.
Jenny, that's 8 hours north, just to know.
Well, that's if you drive, but if you know.
As the crow flies.
As the crow flies.
Nicolin.
Okay, hi. I'm Nicolin Carroll Moore. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, which is just north of Venezuela in South America. So it's always sunny here. I am with Group 20. I'm so pleased to say that I invited 6 of my governors, my vice governors, to attend today, and 4 of them are here. So I'm ecstatic. Thanks, guys, for showing up. Chris, Edna, David, and where's Glenn? And Glenn. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicolin. Chris.
Hello, my name is Chris Wooters. I am from Maryland. We have DC along with our district as well, and I'm a part of 20.
Very good. Joyce.
Hi, I'm Joyce Garrow. I'm from Nova Scotia in Canada, and I was in group 25 with Winster.
All right, thank you. Giuseppe.
Hi, I'm Giuseppe Gogo from District 20 R1, past district governor. I was a governor during the pandemic, so I am also known as the unknown district governor, and I am here because I'm filling up a vacancy, and I look forward to work with you, and my group is 25.
Thank you. Ted.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Ted Hamilton from District 11C2 in Michigan. It's kind of in the middle of the state. I'm group 26.
All righty. Edna, are you able to unmute? If you can see how to unmute on your phone, we'll go ahead on and I'll come back when, oh, there you are.
Hello,
Hi
I'm
there.
Edna. I'm from Israel. And I will be the next district governor.
Thank you.
Israel, it's District 128.
Thank you for joining us. David.
Hi, I'm David Kim from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Canada. I'm in District A5.
All righty. Lorraine.
I'm Lorraine Dixon, Group 26, and I am from Zebulon, North Carolina. And we are expecting the challenging weather today, just in the event that I get bumped off. So just if I do, you know that the weather will be the culprit. I have to stay on mute because my dogs are not happy that I am on the computer instead of paying attention to them.
Dogs are always welcome on laps or nearby.
Well, you probably will see the 5-pound Pomeranian in my lap because she has a vicious little bark when she wants to sit with me. So, but I'm happy to be here today. I could not make it to St. Charles, but it'll be a fun morning. Unless the weather kicks me out.
Say, and we hope you stay safe from a weather standpoint.
Thank you.
Liz.
Hi, everybody. I am Liz Pettis from Massachusetts. I'm from District 33 in Massachusetts, and I'll be going in as district governor in July. And I wasn't able to go to St. Charles. I didn't know at the time that I was going to be doing this. So I'm all excited to learn more today.
Appreciate having you with us.
Thank you.
And Glenn.
Good morning. I'm Glenn Beadle from Arkansas, USA District 20.
All right. Thank you all for the brief introductions, and that was a good audio check for our microphones. So let's dive into our first topic, try to keep you on time and get you out as we planned. So the first topic that we're going to cover is supporting membership. And to do that, I'd like to ask group leader Jody to jump in.
Thank you, Wendy, and hello, everyone. We are going to talk about membership first here and how you as a district governor and your team can support it. So one moment here while I get my screens all set up. So we're ready to go. You know, and we are all and have all been Lions for some time. And we know that growing and retaining members is vital to every club and their ability to serve. And it's really the responsibility of every Lion. As a district governor, you're actually going to have a special role in supporting membership because you're going to be working with your team to devise a district-wide strategy to support the efforts of all your clubs in growth and retaining their members. And I wanted to start this off because how many of you have heard of the global membership approach, otherwise known as GMA? Hopefully you have because you've been going to your GAT area meetings. And there's a district in California, USA, that jumped in on that process early and has some really stunning results to show the impact of a district team that makes a plan, implements a plan, and then moves forward with some great success. So let me show you a quick screen here. Let's talk a little bit about GMA. It is build a team, build a vision, build a plan, and build success. It is a standard business practice in every company across the world to actually go through this building a team, build a vision, build a plan, and build success. Lions is finally, as an organization, taking a look at this and applying it to our Lions clubs. And again, seeing some great results in clubs and districts that have adopted it. Here's that district in California I was talking about. This is actually MD4, L4 in Southern California, USA. In 2021, you can see here that they had a loss of 123 members in one Lion year. And the incoming leadership and the sitting leadership decided that they had to stop the drops and they had to turn things around. The global membership approach had just come out and they decided to adopt that. They as a district went through the process. They built their team, they built their vision, they built their plan, and then they're building on the success now. Their plan focused on how to bring GMA to their clubs and support their clubs as they work through the process. It also included a lot of change and cheerleaders and high energy. They launched their plan in July of 2021. And by the end of that Lion year, as you see there, which is June 30 of 2022, they were at plus 71 members. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but that's one heck of a swing from being at minus 123 the year before to plus 71 that year. And now we sit 75% through their second year with their plan, and they've added another plus 100 Lions year to date this Lions year. How many of you would like to see your districts turn it around? This is the opportunity in front of you and your teams to implement a global membership approach or some other strategies that are going to help grow members and even probably more importantly, retain the members you got. And that's where we're going to focus today, on how you can grow and retain your members and work with your team. Our session objectives are to identify who can impact retention and methods used to determine why members leave our Lions clubs, and then to devise some member retention strategies. As Wendy said, this is a recap session. The original session was 90 minutes long. We're going to do this in 45 minutes. So there's going to be some post work potentially for you on this as we move along. And we'll try to get you as much information out of this that will help you and your team moving forward as we can based on the time as it allows. In case you're curious, this content in your participant manual is from pages 140 to 150. The post assignment is on page 151. And then copies of the pre-assignments that you hopefully were able to do are on page 154. Also looking at the pre-assignments, pages 155 to 156, we're going to reference who can positively impact retention. Any questions on what we're doing this morning with this session, or today, I should say? By the way, I can't see any of you right now. So Wendy, if there are questions, or if you guys just want to unmute your mics and pop in, that's great. Or if there are questions in the chat, Wendy, if you could highlight those for me, that would be fantastic. All right, sorry, go ahead, Wendy.
I'm sorry, I just said sure will.
Thank you. You know me, I just keep talking. So let's get into the meat of the session here, and let's start talking about your teams. LCI put together this list of who might be on your team. And it's really important to realize you cannot do this alone. Like in the example I just shared with you, without that whole team working together to create the plan and implement the plan, they would not be seeing the success that they are seeing. It's going to take your entire team working together. And it starts with understanding why your members leave, and then using that information that's going to build that vision and a plan that's going to help every club in your district grow what we call here in my area, Happy Lions. The team that LCI has pointed out to us is your immediate past district governor, your vice district governors, your global action team. And I'm going to highlight for a moment that not only includes now your global leadership team, your global membership team, your global service team, but that new role of global extension team that's going to help grow clubs and add clubs to your district potentially. It also should include your global membership approach working group, whether you have a champion or a whole group of Lions working on your GMA plan, your zone chairs, and your region chairs. Are there any other roles that you would think that you would want to access or add to your team as you're working on this plan? If so, please either drop those in the chat or go ahead and unmute and please share those out.
Marketing team.
Excellent. Anyone else have any others they'd like to add?
LCIF coordinator.
Love it. I'm, by the way, taking notes as we're going along to enhance this as we go along. Other ideas. Hearing none, I would also suggest you might want to reach out to some of your past district governors. And maybe if you have a past international director in your area that might be able to act as a resource and a support with your team as you're working through this process. Other people you might want to consider bouncing ideas off of would be your council chair or your GAT area leader as you're looking into this and working with your team. They may not be able to be an integral part of your team, but getting feedback from those that have experience outside of your area often comes in handy in finalizing and really refining your plans. Is there anything else anyone would like to add to working with your team? Hearing nothing, I'm going to go on to a question. And this goes to page 156 of your participant manual booklet, where you captured the notes from meeting with your team. And I'm curious if anyone would like to share some of the reasons that your members are leaving in your area. Go ahead and unmute or drop those into the chat.
Some members are leaving just because of aging out. And that's a challenge that none of us can do much about except to try to recruit younger members.
Great point. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think several leave just about the first or second years that they are in, because they don't find the satisfaction in the club. And so I think that the main problem is the club quality.
Not meeting the members' needs, basically.
Liz added in the chat, not a priority. And one that my group shared when we met in person had to do with boring meetings and also not feeling like they were contributing to others, that it was more administrative burdens and not the contributions that they were looking for.
Awesome. I'm going to share a screen with you in a few minutes that we're going to work off of with even more of these reasons that members leave based on what we did in St. Charles. But before we go there, which is going to be the meat of the rest of our time together with this session, how does your team identify why your members are leaving?
With a follow-up call or a survey.
Survey follow-up call, great. Others?
I think that's actually the problem. A lot of ours get away. We don't actually follow up to see why they're leaving. They don't do any exit interviews. I know we've made calls. Our club has made calls and tried to find out why they left. And sometimes we're able to actually keep those or follow back up with them a few months later and have them come back after they've gone through whatever they've gone through. But a lot of times we just let them get by and we don't actually follow up with that.
Excellent point, Chris. And before anyone else chimes in, I would add to that, some districts have very successfully taken over the exit interview process. For many years, you try to get every club to do these exit interviews. Well, the challenge is that they're already overwhelmed with the work they have in front of them, focusing on running their clubs and doing service. By the district taking on that role, you get consistent information that then the district GMT or whomever you assign, if you have a retention chair, can send back out to the zone chair and the clubs. Sometimes the members that leave don't want to talk to their club members about why they left either, because they're uncomfortable with what's going on. Going back to the comment about the not feeling comfortable in the club, it wasn't meeting their needs. So by the district taking that on, you get a better response rate. So if your district has the capability, you may want to consider that as part of your planning process. How about anyone else? Any other ways that you're identifying why your members are leaving? Hearing none, I'm going to add a couple of other things for your thoughts. One is at the club level through the face-to-face meetings, whether you're sending your zone chairs there, your vice district governors, yourself or your GAT team, I think it's really important that you find a way to capture that information with a club after the club visit, so you are aware of any potential reasons people are leaving that you as a district then can help provide training or support for. The other place that you can look at it is sometimes is in club service reporting to see if they are reporting their service. Clubs that have become knife and fork clubs are more likely to be dropping members than those that are doing service and getting out there and making a difference in their communities. And the tool that each and every one of us gets emailed to us every month is called the Club Health Assessment. It usually comes out around the 5th of the month. And on that Club Health Assessment, it shows where every club in your district is as far as membership, where it started the year, membership growth, what they've added, what they've dropped. It shows a snapshot of where they're at with their reporting on both membership and service and their support of LCIF. It's a really important place and report for you and your team to use to analyze where you're at. It also highlights clubs that are doing really well in growth and ones that are under, I believe it's 15 members that get highlighted so that you can be watching them and looking for different plans on how to support them. Any other tools that you can think of before we move on to the meat of what we're going to be doing the rest of the day, our time together? Hearing none, let's take a look at the list that the group 29, when we were together in St. Charles, came up with a pretty extensive list of why members were leaving. And our list, I'm going to read this out and then we'll add the ones that you brought up. Squashing new ideas, being adverse, not open to change, and bullying going on in some of the clubs. Not enough service projects, long boring meetings, no fun, feeling unappreciated, personal needs not being met, conflict, between the members. Often it comes down to local club politics, and sometimes it's about attitudes. We can't type of attitudes. One that many of our members, the DGEs from Group 29 brought up is the dues are becoming impossible and difficult for some people, so they can't afford the dues. Not allowing new leadership. And what that meant was we have a longtime project chair that isn't willing to give up the reins. So people come in and want to serve and want to make changes, and they aren't allowed to step into a leadership role because that long-serving member will not allow that. And then talking back to something that you all brought up earlier is no time. And in some cases, they have young children. So these are the reasons that Group 29 came up with. Were there other reasons that either the group leaders want to add that we missed or that you guys had not added before? Aging out, not satisfied with membership. Lions wasn't a priority. Boring meetings we talked about, and really too much admin and not enough service.
I think my group added the fact that in some clubs there were cliques and people didn't feel a part of those cliques. So they were unhappy and so they left.
Excellent. Anyone else? All right, hearing none, let's move on. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take some of these items and we're going to go through and do some brainstorming. In the participant manual, if you turn to page 142, you're going to see that there's a page there that's about brainstorming strategies to retain members who want to drop. In the live session, we actually broke into breakout room set tables and small groups and allowed people to work on the different areas on their own. With this online piece, we're going to adjust slightly. And we're going to just go through and brainstorm some of the reasons of retention strategies for a number of these different topics, as many of them that we can get through in our time together. Then on your own, pages 144 to 150 give you the opportunity to identify the resources that you might need to implement that strategy, team member who's going to be responsible, how you're going to motivate those that are responsible, and then how to monitor progress. But in order to get you as much as we can detail-wise, we're just going to focus on the brainstorming on some of these different areas as we move along today. This will be most beneficial if we are all interacting here and add in some thoughts, because this is what you're going to take away. So if you want to turn to page 142 in your manual, we will get started here. You can drop it into the chat. If you have ideas, you can open up your mic. But let's talk about some potential strategies, retention strategies around squashing new ideas, change, and bullying. Now, I'm going to also make one quick delineation here. As we're looking at this, we're going to come up and you should be sharing with us some strategies that may be a district strategy that you're going to use to help the clubs. And you may also have some strategies the clubs might use. So there's going to be a combination of types of strategies that might come out. For example, in this topic, in the bullying area, you as a district could put on a bullying workshop and how Lions can overcome that in their clubs. At the club level, the strategy might be to have the president or the zone chair or the district governor talk to the individual that is identified as the bully. So that's the two levels I'm trying to refer to. Any questions on what we're doing with this?
Just a comment, Jody. I don't think your page numbers correspond with ours.
Are you in the PDF or are you in the?
I'm in the actual manual.
The printed one or the PDF?
The printed one.
Okay, so the printed manual, I'm sorry, I thought everyone was on the PDF. You can turn to tab 8, page 2 in your printed participant manual.
Okay, I am there. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for letting me know, Joyce. So tab 8, page 2, if you're in the printed manual, and then if you're online, it's page 142 in the PDF. Any other questions before we get started? Hearing none, we're just going to start working through some of these. So in the area of squashing new ideas, change, and bullying, I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen for the moment here, and I'm going to open up the actual PDF or the actual PowerPoint so we can actually type in the items that you have so they'll be captured for those that are going to watch this recording later. So one moment, please, and start thinking about all of those things. And you can go ahead and start. Let's make this as big as possible. Thank you very much. And then go ahead. Is anyone have any ideas on how we might be able to support potential retention strategies for squashing of new ideas, change, and bullying? And are you seeing my PowerPoint slide here, I hope?
Yeah, we're seeing it.
Excellent. Not sure why that was there, but okay. Excellent. So anyone have any ideas on how we might be able to overcome this retention strategies for this?
Give everybody a voice. Let if somebody in the club wants to do something, take on a project, give them an opportunity, let them try it. Even if you tried it before, just give them a chance.
Yeah,
Excellent, Liz.
I was thinking kind of along those lines, a rule to not say no. There's got to be a more
Yeah.
eloquent way to
Yes.
put that it could be kind of themed of, we're going to say yes to
Yeah, just say yes.
anything that meets our mission to serve.
So I'm going to give you an example, Wendy. I think that's a really great point. I'm going to give you an example of a club that changed their attitude. This club used to be an all-male club, even as recent ago as 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And at that time, they were just doing their same old, same old. They decided to open up to all members of all genders. And they also decided to change how they talk to people about being a lion. They said, what are you interested in? What would you like to do? And I'm going to give a specific example. One of the potential members they approached, wanted to bake cookies with middle schoolers and then get them to the senior center and have these kids spend time at the senior center. This project costs the club less than $250 a year. And this was implemented about 5 years ago. They've added 8 new members in that time because of that one project. Whatever someone came in and said, I want to do this, this is what I'm passionate about. Most of these projects don't cost that much. They went from being at a stable, I think it was 40 members. They're over 80 members strong now because they changed that one thing. So just say yes works. Excellent point. All right. Anyone else have another idea?
Kind of going along with that, our club was kind of a good old boys club as well for quite a while. Lately, we've been adding more women to our club, and now some of the wives are starting to join. One of the things that we require in our club, or ask in our club, if somebody does bring a new idea to the club, they kind of chair a committee to investigate or to check in on it, to do some of the legwork, because not every idea makes financial sense, or we're working with the public money, of course, so we're trying to try to get as much bang for the buck as we can out of everything. So one thing we do require, and it gives them some ownership. If they do take a lead on a committee to bring an idea to the club, they have ownership in it as well. We've had a couple instances where somebody brings an idea and then they just are expecting other people in the club to jump and run and go with it, and yet they don't really do anything. So we're trying to get people to take some ownership in it if they think that there's something that they really want to do, and most of the time we'll back it up.
So Ted, is this kind of what Lion who shared their idea, chair the exploration committee? Is that kind of
Exactly.
Perfect.
Take the lead. I guess a good word is taking the lead on it.
Excellent. Take the lead.
And Jody, I'd like to elaborate a little bit to Lion Ted's comment. I'm transferred into a newer club that chartered during the pandemic, and we actually have a form that one of the Lions made that when you have a new idea and want to bring it to the club, you've kind of have completed the pre-planning and how it's going to work, how many members are going to be needed. So just to elaborate a little bit on that too.
That would be great if that could be shared, that document.
Okay.
Thanks,
Jenny.
Jenny.
Okay.
Jenny, if you share that with me, I will put that back in the materials so that you can access those. Great idea.
My club, about 7-10 years ago, we were 13 members. And then slowly we started to make changes, and now we are 50, actually
Wow.
54.
Wow.
And plus
How'd you do that?
this year we started a branch, and in a few days we will turn the branch into a club.
Wow.
When I went, and it's still when I go, because right now I am a GMT. When I go to clubs, I stress the mission and the purpose of Lionism, which is not to serve, is to empower members to serve. So the role of the president and the role of the board of directors is to empower the members that wants to serve. And if they have a project, a dream, they should support that and make them happen. This is the way that actually my club changed a little bit. We still are not so good on that, but we are starting to empower the committee and put the chair of the committee, the person that proposed the service or the fundraiser. And this gives a lot of satisfaction to the club members.
Excellent, Giuseppe. I added empower members to serve to that first bullet that Liz brought up. I think that's a really important point. When you empower the members to serve, we're all serving, and it's really important. Anyone else have any other ideas on this before we go to another session or another topic? I have one more thing to add if you don't.
In regards to this right here, squashing new ideas and change, I think it's very important for us as a district leadership to look at it as a larger thing, and to make sure that we do not make sure that everyone else knows that there are differences in different places. Because even if some clubs tend to do certain things and only tend to be a part of certain things, but there are club transfers, there are club branches that people can do to expand on different ideas and to become a part of maybe something that they want to be a part of, and to maybe to go down. So even if it's something that their club is just saying no because they're not wanting to focus on that, making sure that we let them know that there are different clubs, they are different, that maybe they fit in better at a different club. And maybe that's the thing, maybe that they're just on the same wavelength as that club. We make sure there are, it depends on the area, of course, because it might be too far away to move. But, there are branch clubs that can do that, do different things. And we can make sure that that they know that they're, not to just say no, or not to, live on that, to try to, keep going and to let them know this is a global, the global thing, and they shouldn't just worry about one thing.
Great point, Chris. And I think it's one that we all, especially as district governors and your team at a district level, need to be aware of. So many of our clubs have gotten so old. So if your average age is 70 plus years old in a club, getting a 20 or 30 something to join that club is going to be a challenge. They're not going to fit in. They're not going to feel comfortable in most cases. So are you better off looking at encouraging a club to create a branch club, or even creating a district-wide branch club that would then be able to, virtual club that would be able to take on these younger members and be almost a hub club that allows them to get established as a Lion and then move up from there. You have to look at your own goals and use the tools that we have here to try to make these things work. And then it's a great point, Chris. Thank you so much. The other thing I'm going to add to this is, and many of you have heard me say this, but I can't go through this squashing new ideas and change and bullying without covering this, is there's a lot of squashing that goes on because we've always done it that way. There's often one or two members in a club that have been around for a long time and they're really struggling. They're afraid of change. And we're going to talk more about change in a bit. But many cases, those Lions don't realize that they're being negative or causing problems. They think they're helping the club because they're trying to keep it from financial ruin or from looking, whatever that might be. And if you sit down and have a conversation with them and say, listen, this is what's happening here. We hear you, we appreciate your input, but if you could just look at things and let it happen and let these younger members and newer members get something done and try this project, let's see what happens. There's not that much at stake here. And I'm going to give you another real world example. I was district governor at the time, and I went into a club to do my club visitation. And I got there and I got my spiel and all of that, and they're doing their club meeting, and they just done a movie in the park event just before I arrived. And the movie in the park event was for everyone in the community, especially families. They got a screen and they went out to the park. They put a Disney movie on. They sold hot dogs and lemonade for $1 each, and they invited the whole community in. So they did the recap of the report of that event, and a longtime member of the club, actually a charter member of the club, actually stood up, and I almost fell over, and said this. He said, I was completely against this project. I thought it was ridiculous. I didn't think it should happen. And you guys went ahead with it. He said, I can't think of a better project that we've done in the last 5 years than this one for our community. Thank you for not listening to me, and thank you for going forward. Now, those of you who have been around will recognize why my mouth was open, and I thank God was sitting down so I didn't fall over. If you can get that individual that's squashing new ideas to recognize and let things happen, they will become converts pretty quickly when they're success. Those of them who can't, I will mention this. There's some people that are just naturally negative. We can't. And you can't get them to turn it around. A strategy you might want to offer to your clubs and to use yourself is turn it back on them. When they say we can't, you can say, I hear you, but how would you suggest we go forward? Those putting it back on them, and if you do it often and it happens often enough, they start to recognize it on their own, that they're not going to say it if they don't have a possible other solution. So just a couple of other things you might take into account. I'll put those notes in later because we're running short on time here. I do want to get through one other one quick, and that is not enough service projects. We have many of our clubs, unfortunately, that have become these knife and fork clubs, and they're not comfortable with doing new service projects, oftentimes because they are aging out. Oftentimes there's other pieces that are coming into play. They're just comfortable with what they're doing. So you in your district, as you look at the service reporting and know the projects that are going on in your district, how many of you, is this a challenge, number one, in your district that you're seeing? And number two, what strategies might you implement if you are seeing this going on in your district?
I think some of the Lions Club could interact or connect with either a Leo's Club or the high school, if they're older and they have to set up tents or grills and, stuff that the older members can't do, they need to reach out and connect either to other clubs or, like I said, to a high school, Leo's group, something so that they can do service projects and then get others involved and hopefully get new members that way too.
Excellent, Liz. Partnering is such an important part of the message that we need to get out there to our clubs. So many of them just want to be on their own. And don't forget to partner with your other clubs in your district.
Correct.
You've got a zone. Are there other clubs that can help you get that project in place? Can you do a roving project in all three of your, or four, whatever? So great point, Liz. Anyone else?
Yes. In our club in Wendell, we have decided to become a community resource when they are trying to fundraise for different adventures. If we can provide some assistance, we have found that we are gaining members just from becoming that community resource because we have a building that serves a purpose. So I know that our club president spent time this week helping with community fundraising, and we are going to gain members from that.
That's fantastic. Become a community resource. If your club is the go-to club when there's anything that comes up, you're going to know what the needs are and you're going to be on top of the current needs. And as Lorraine just said, your membership is logically going to grow because people see a value in what that club is providing. Anyone else?
Jody, I got something to share. So this may be a little self-serving to the next topic on the agenda, but it's it's to utilize the service project planners that LCI has in the library we're going to talk about in a little bit, because I think a lot of times we get our blinders onto the projects that we've done and we may not be as open to seeing a potential need in the community, or kind of meshing needs with personal interests of members or the other partner groups, and glancing through the service project planner library or the existing planners that are available on LCI. um, just kind of get your brain thinking a different way of some potential things that I never even thought of before. And I think having ideas to bring forward is sometimes the challenge of not having enough service projects.
That's a great point, Wendy. And I actually went through there. We're getting ready for our officer training sessions, and our district governor-elect has opted to have us share that as part of our district governor-elect, or I mean, we're in district governor-elect officer training. Sorry, so many trainings going on at once, but as part of officer training, as a resource for these clubs to be able to go out and take a look at. How about anything else that anyone can think of?
I'd like to jump in, and speaking of looking at and thinking of things differently, I wish I could remember who mentioned, but they said maybe instead of thinking retention strategies, maybe thinking of happy member strategies. And this lion really kindly stated, you know, I want my wife to stay. I don't think of how I can retain her. I think of how can I make her happy so she wants to stay with me, because there was something that she liked about me to begin with. And that's what I think of. Our lions have come to our clubs because they're interested in something. And so think of it in keeping every member happy. And that ties in everything that we've already talked about. So thank you.
I'm going to add your attribution for that one, Jenny. It was Pastor National President Jimmy Ross who said it. And I'm sure you probably have heard it from him, but I referenced it in the first session here. So you might have been paying close attention then too.
You never know.
I think with a lot of these, it comes down to also is getting a be able to help train your teams, your presidents to be able to be enablers, so that way they can work to see what they can do. I think a lot of times, I know like in my district, we get too caught up on what our pillars of foundations are, instead of just remembering that our motto is just we serve, you know, and it doesn't matter what our is, we just got to get there and we just got to serve. And if it's something that's outside of what we might typically do, it doesn't mean that we can't do it. It just means we have to try to see what we can do around that and actually get out there and do it. So I think with a lot of these things, it's more about being able to enable and be able to help our different presidents in different areas to make sure that they are able to do what they can do.
Excellent point, Chris.
Your club, your way.
Yeah. You know, this right here is the key to growing clubs and keeping your members happy. Service is why people join. They do not join to go to another meeting. They don't join to sit around and complain about why we don't have new members. They join because they want to make a difference. So if you've got a club that's out working and making a difference in the community, as Liz said, I think it was Liz that said just a little bit ago, they come and join because they see you out there working. And in most cases, when you're out doing service, people are happy and having fun. So the visual that your community sees is whether they join you or not, they're more likely to then come and help with, you know, your fundraisers. They're more likely to donate to your club and support you. So this really truly is the key, I believe, to growing your clubs and maintaining members. From a district standpoint, as you're looking at training your officers, back to what Chris just said and others that we've talked about, how are you going to train them? What are you going to introduce to them? How are you going to help them focus on service? And it doesn't mean just the service that they can do on their own. I use the example all the time. There's a lot of clubs that collect plastic here in the United States through the Trex recycling program, and then they get a plastic bench, recycled bench that they can put in their community. It's a great project. Takes money, takes plastic out of the environment, et cetera, et cetera. But if your community needs a skate park and you're focused on putting a bench in your park, is that really going to fire people up? No. So if your community needs a skate park or whatever it is, this is a perfect opportunity to team. Your Lions Club leads the effort, team with the Optimists, the Rotary, team with the city, team with the county, team with the DNR, Department of Natural Resources, whomever it is, to get the job done. That way, then you are seen as leaders, and it's something the community wants. And they'll be all over supporting you with it, whether it's funding or whether it's whatever it is, joining your club. You're seen as leaders when it comes to service. That's what's important. That goes back to what Liz said earlier, that they became, I think it was Liz, no, it was Lorraine said that becoming a community resource. These service projects and being seen as being out there and active in current needs keeps your members and also helps you move on with new members. Wendy, how am I doing on time? I got about 5 minutes here. Let's take just one quick look at, I think we just better wrap up because otherwise we're going to go over time and we'll be late. So let me switch screens here again. Well, we'll just share it here because it's going to take less time. And you'll get to see my lovely notes if I have any. But this really, what it really comes down to is if you can keep your members happy, that Wendy, can you do the exact quote the way Jimmy Ross says it? Because I can't remember it.
Jenny hit it pretty closely in that, in talking about, we talk about member retention, but you don't refer to retaining a spouse. You refer to doing the things, treating people the way that they want to be treated in order to choose to stay with you. So, and that's really how we need to look at the members in our clubs, more so than a retention phrasing. It really is a good point.
I'm going to add here a membership needs preference survey. And LCI has a number of them through membership usually has 2 M's in it, doesn't it? Anyways, these membership needs preference survey, and have them give feedback on your current projects. Have them give feedback on something you might want to do going forward. Getting that information directly from your members is key to be able to move forward as a district and especially at the club level. So keeping your members equals more service, because just like in business, if you have one happy customer, they tell one person. This is an old adage. If you have one unhappy customer, they tell 10. That's exactly what happens with our Lions clubs as well. So keeping your members happy equals more service, more growth, and more opportunity to meet all those growing needs that are going on in our communities. All right, let's wrap this up here. The session objectives were to identify who can impact retention and methods used to determine why our members leave, and then to devise some member retention strategies, which I believe we hit in spades. Thank you all for being so vocal and sharing your ideas. I just want to quickly recap the post assignment before we go on. And this is page 151 of the PDF participant manual. And I can't remember the page number and I can't see it right now for the paper manual, but your post assignment is really to sit down with your district. I call it your exec team, your vice district governors, your GAT and your global membership team members, to share these retention strategies and then talk about how this might help support your district goals for next year in retaining your members and keeping happy Lions and growing more happy Lions so we can serve more and make a bigger impact on our communities. With that, Wendy, I am going to turn it back over to you. Thank you all, and can't wait to hear the next piece of this.
Well done. Thank you.
Nice job, Jody.
Jody, yes, nice job. And I'm going to ask if you, when you add other notes, if you can put in there the post shoot, what was it called? The post exit interviews for members, because that's something, it's one of those kind of somewhat common sense but not common practice activities that does make a lot of sense to happen at the zone or district level, but takes some forethought and planning and follow up. But I think that's a tremendous opportunity to learn, if not necessarily to maintain or retain the membership. At least it gives our clubs an opportunity to learn. Um, so if you'll add that in your
I will definitely
notes,
do that.
I would appreciate that for my own reference of what we're going through. For this next just couple minutes, I wanted to take a moment. As Giuseppe reminded us, the mission of Lions is to empower our members to serve. And this is a good segue that I introduced in that last little section, to share a great resource in that regard of helping our members serve. As many of you are aware, all of the DGE groups spent some time between October and January discussing and preparing in small groups service project plans for each of the global cause areas. And I have to do it in alphabetical order to remember them all: childhood cancer, diabetes, environment, hunger, and vision. And so each of those five sub or global causes had subgroups in our district governor elect groups, and they made presentations in St. Charles. And out of those, the five in each of our groups, each group selected one to advance forward. And Lions leaders then selected the top 3 project plans. So there were so many great ideas. I mean, over 150 project plans, because we have 31 district governor elect groups. So our LCI team has made a library of those PowerPoint presentations available for you to use and to share with others for inspiring service. So please do take time to look at the project ideas. Thank you, Jody, for dropping the link to that library. It's a Lions Clubs International link for that one. In the chat. So if you don't have it already, please save that link and look at the project ideas. Share the link with your your district global service team coordinator. And like club officer training was a great opportunity to make our Lions aware of other resources that are available to support them and empower them. So I'm not going to show any of those, but I will give a shout out to group leader Winster. He's not here, but there are a few of you from group 25 who have bragging rights, having taken the top honors at the DGE seminar with an environmental project to save the honeybees. And I mean, I'll use that one as an example that is, the way they described it in the PowerPoint could be very extensive, but you could also scale back that activity to something that maybe doesn't have, quite the cost impact, and still be able to help support your local community. And that was not on my radar screen until they announced the winning project to save the honeybees. And then I'm like, huh, okay, so there are a lot of ideas like that, some that may intrigue you or other members in your districts. They are organized in 2 ways. They're organized by the 5 global causes. So there's a folder for each of those. You'll see the 31 presentations for each of our groups there. And then there's also a folder for the winning presentations, the one presentation from each group that went forward for the further friendly competition among the district governor elects. So again, please take advantage of that resource. Some really neat ideas in there, and share it with others. That's not something just to be kept among us as district governor elects and group leaders. So moving on to our next topic.
Wendy, before you do that, I forgot one
yes.
thing. I'm drinking out of a special cup today. Hold on, let me see if I can get it to show up. And the reason I want to jump in is I should have brought this up at the beginning of the supporting membership. Don't forget Leos. Many here in the States only have what we call the Alpha Leo Club, which is the high school level Leo Club. Middle school somewhat. Anyways, in other parts of the world, they have what's called Omega Leos. And it's basically adults from just out of college, 18 to 30, I think, or 35 is what it is. these Leo lions or Leos are a great portion of our future. So if you're looking to bring in and add some new membership and get some fired up, excited people, do not forget the Leo lions, and make sure to watch the video from St. Charles where we had a really amazing Leo talk to us about the program and how you can use it in your own areas. Thanks.
Sure, absolutely. So we're going to move on to our next topic. I'm going to intro one of the things that you have as a district governor, an essential responsibility is in conjunction with your district governor team to establish and monitor those goals along the way. And those district goals are due to be submitted coming up here in May. So to provide an overview of the goals and action plan session, please welcome our group leader, Jenny.
All right, morning, everybody, and afternoon. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy days and joining us. I get to review with you goals and action plans for a workshop. This also was like an hour and a half presentation, facilitation at St. Charles, and obviously we're going to scale it down. So it's going to be kind of a quick overview. I do want to just reiterate to everybody, as the district governor, everyone is going to look to you for answers. And we're throwing a lot of information at you, and you're thinking, how am I going to be able to do all this? Well, we don't expect you to do it all. What we're helping provide you with are the multitude of resources that are available to you as the leader of your district, whether it be a person who has a title or whether it be resources through LCI or LCIF. So keep that in mind. This is going to be your go-to bag when somebody has a question and you think, oh, I don't know that, but I can send them this resource. And the one thing that I like to do when I'm meeting with Lions and they want me to send them something, I ask them to either email me or hand me their business card with what they're asking me to send them, because I will never remember. And then you fail to send them the information and it's a letdown. So just a little bit of information on that. So I'm going to see if I can screen share. Let me see here, because we're going to talk about the session objectives, but I have to get to the right tab. And I'm not able to, how do I get that top bar to the bottom or something there, Jody? Because that's not the tab I want, obviously.
Jenny, you're not showing your PowerPoint. You're showing your email.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to a tab that's underneath there.
Goals and action plan workshop is the next tab over to the right, it looks like.
But my
oh, just grab the little toolbar and drag it off to the side. If you go to the left-hand side of it, there should be a little area you can drag it off out of the way.
Let's try that. Oh, there we go. There it is. Yay. Thank you so very much.
You are welcome.
So I'm not going to be doing a lot of screen sharing because this is a very interactive session. And basically our session objectives are to develop a SMART goal using a sample district SWOT analysis. So the two things we're going to focus on are the SMART goals, how to write a SMART goal, and then the district SWOT analysis. Okay, and then I'm going to stop sharing because again, this is going to be very interactive. Everybody here has probably written at least one SMART goal. I'm not sure if you have all completed a SWOT analysis, but we're going to use the SWOT analysis towards the end of the session. But today we're going to mainly aim at developing a SMART goal. And so would anybody like to share what one of the 5 elements of the SMART goal is? The S.
Specific.
Specific. Thank you. Now that we've got that rolling, what does the M in the SMART goal stand for?
Measurable.
Thank you. A.
Actionable.
actionable, because we want to make sure that something is achievable. We don't want to put a pie in the sky and then not be able to achieve that, right? How about the R in SMART?
Realistic.
Realistic. And again, going back to the pie in the sky, we want to be able to motivate others to show them that this is achievable. So if we haven't brought in even one new member in our district in the last 10 years, we don't want to make our membership goal to bring in 100, right? Make it a little bit more realistic. And then what's the T for in the SMART goal?
Time bound.
Thank you, time bound. Exactly. We don't want to just put up this goal and say, okay, let's get this done. And people are like, well, when? Because some goals we're going to be looking at in a very small, timely manner, a shorter, like maybe in a month or in a quarter, and some might be towards the end of the year. The one thing that we need to remember is that goals are always fluid. We can change goals at any time throughout your year as district governor, because it might not be realistic. We may need to make the time frame longer. We may need to make it shorter. So developing these goals that are specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound is like knowing the destination of your next vacation. Think of it that way, right? If you know where you're going, you can devise a plan on how to get there. And this is in the group leader manual. And I thought, oh, that's a really good way, because we all know where we're going at some point. And how do we develop that plan? We have all maybe used different goal setting, smarter. We've all maybe used goal settings through maybe our workplace, maybe through Lions in the past. But for the sake of Lions International at this time, this is the goal planning that we're using, the SMART goals. So when you develop a plan to get to your destination, you look at a roadmap, right? You pick that desirable route, and the action plan is that actual roadmap that you and your team are going to use. And if you don't have that plan, your team could be going everywhere, because we all know there's more than one way to get to a destination, but we don't want everybody taking different routes to get there. So many different types of action plans. We'll use the one described in the action planning to achieve district goals in our e-learning course. So those of you that may remember the e-learning course, this is directly from that. And I say that because you've been through how many e-learning courses, you've been looking through this very thick participant manual. We don't expect you to memorize all this, but again, it's a resource to go back for you to review if the e-course is a better or easier learning for you versus the actual written word. So the course describes several components of the goal or the action plan. So your goal describes which your best desired result is. The action steps are which of the specific steps needed to achieve the goal, not just to say, we're going to get new members, right? That's not a very good goal. And how are we going to get there? Responsible party, those that are accountable for each action step. You know in your cabinet who your energetic leaders are that you're going to want to put into this plan. It might not always be who the title says or states, because maybe that person has a different energy source for a different area. Think about the required resources. What's the specific materials, the funding, again, or the persons needed to complete each action step? So I might be the global membership chair for the district, but am I going to do this all by myself? Probably not. So we're going to look at who's going to be able to assist me. The timeliness. We're going to look at the start dates and the due dates for each of the action steps. Because if we're going to say, let's increase our membership, we're not going to say that our final date is the end of your Lions year, because we don't really want to review this for another 12 months, right? So some of those action steps are going to be shorter steps. And then the final goal is going to be the end of the year. Let's do an assessment. The evaluation of whether you are on track to complete the goal, right? If not, determine what's impeding the completion of the goal. What is stopping us from every small goal? Maybe we're going to reach one of those goals sooner than we thought, and we can move some of those timelines that were further out there closer. Then we're also going to be looking at the alterations. Based on the above assessment, are we going to determine any changes are needed to ensure that the goal is being achieved? So developing the action plan that includes these details, and again, the details are the goal, the action steps, the responsible party, the required resources, timeliness, assessing it along the way, and alterations. Those are going to be the actions to complete the plan. So just like you need to know the exact directions to your desired destination, providing specific details about what needs to happen in the action plan will allow you and your team to find success. So I'm going to have you in the participant manual, tab 9, page 4 through 7 in your participant manual. There are some sample district SWOT analysis examples. I'm asking you to turn to page 12 specifically for sample district SWOT analysis number 2. All right, so I'll give you a minute to turn to that. This is where I'm going to ask for interaction. The sample SWOT district analysis, we're going to look at the area of focus. Thank you, Lion Wendy. It's page 169 in the electronic manual. Because in this analysis, the SWOT assessment is already completed. It looks at the strengths for our leadership development. It looks at our opportunities for our leadership development, the weaknesses that we have in our district, but also the threats. Okay? So when we're looking at the Lions leadership development in our district, the strengths, let's say our district leadership wants better succession moving forward. Maybe we've been just every year looking at who's going to be next, who's going to be next. We haven't looked at who's going to be next for the next couple of years. We haven't really planned out our second vice district governor, maybe for the next couple of years. Our strengths is that we're able to organize online meetings and trainings, and that our Lions and our younger Lions and Leos are eager to take on leadership roles. So we have a really strong district that's really looking forward to leadership. And I know that's not realistic for most of our districts, right? The external opportunities is that districts offer gathering spaces for little cost. So in our district, we have parks, and they're offering us spaces for at little to no cost, because some areas they have to pay where they go. They don't have clubhouses. They're meeting in restaurants, and that's not conducive to meetings. Other external opportunities, our adult learners are open to consuming knowledge in new ways. Again, they're willing to attend via virtual online meetings and trainings. Now, the weakness in this district is that we have a lack of awareness about Lions internal institutes. And the district, the group leaders here were talking about that. Another weakness is charter members believe they have priority in taking the leadership roles. I've been here longer, so I deserve this position. I don't care if you've only been a Lion for 2 years and you have all of this background, right? So that's a weakness. Not many Lions are accessing the Lions Leader Learning Center, the Lions Learning Center that we have been able to access. Competing personal or professional priorities, right? We're always having that problem. The Lions that we want in these positions might be busy, right? So we have to encourage their prioritization. And then the threats to our district is that distance or lack of transportation impacts travel to these opportunities, or again, competing organizations focusing on a leadership development. So having reviewed our strengths, our opportunities, our weaknesses, and our threats, let's come up with a SMART goal for our leadership development. And let's as a group, and I'm not as techno savvy as Lion Jody. So Jody, if you want to screen share and help us with.
Sure. Just give
That
me a
would be-
second. I'll get a blank slide up that we can take those notes on. So keep talking and I'll be right
That'd be
with you.
great. So Governor-elects, I'm going to challenge us to come up with a SMART goal for leadership development. So let's come into a SMART goal. What is something maybe that one of you currently have as a goal for your leadership development, or a dream come true that you would like to see if the world were perfect, how you could make this work for your district? Anybody like to share? Just unmute and jump right in. And I'm going to remove my spotlight so that I can see everybody.
I can propose what I did a couple of years ago when there was COVID.
Perfect.
One of my goals was to thoroughly train 10 new members, actually 10 new leaders within the district. It was a 10 session in Zoom. So we prepared all the different programs for each session, and we invited everybody to join. Actually, this was organized also with another district, so we did a common effort with R1 and R2, and so the goal was to prepare these lions to be a leader in any position up to zone chair. So all the training required within the club. So as a president, all the responsibility of how to give the new member orientation, and so the SMART goal was the training to prepare them as a leader position and a chair by April 30, and through a 10 training session.
Excellent, excellent example, Giuseppe, and great to see you. And I hope that this year as a district governor is much better than you as to be forever known as the pandemic district governor, not a past district governor, but the pandemic district governor, right? So excellent. So our goal statement is to train 10 Lion leaders to prepare them to lead in any position up to zone chair by April 30th. So is it specific? Yes. Anybody disagree? Is it measurable? I see some heads nodding. Yes, it's measurable in that we're going to use 10 lions, and we're definitely going to have but it's measurable, 10 lions through these 10 sessions. Is it achievable? I think it sounds really realistic. Measurable. All right, 10 lions, 10 sessions. Look at me forgetting the next letter already.
Actionable.
actionable. Yes. And we're going to do this either in person or Zoom because one of the strengths, realistic, and then time bound. So let's look at the action step. So what are the action steps that we are going to do, that we are going to implement to help this goal happen, to make this goal happen? I think one of the things that we can already state that's even in the goal is we could make the first action step would be using the 10 sessions online training. We could even take that out of the goal and put it into an action step. Anybody have further thoughts on that? I don't want to be the dictator of this. So our action step to obtain this goal is to have 10 session online training. Who is going to be responsible for putting this Zoom meeting together?
I guess it depends on what specifics you want to focus on during this. You might have a different people be responsible for different training sessions depending on what you're trying to accomplish. If it's all the same, you might do it with the same person, but if it's different people, different training, you might try to spread around the action steps and actually break them down into different groups. That way you can have different people being a part of this and give them more leadership parts.
Excellent. So maybe I jumped the gun when I said we could move the 10 session online training from the goal, because the action steps might even be the 10 training sessions. Okay.
Jenny, does this look like what you were, on screen, are you seeing is this okay, or do you want me to move something again? I'm sorry.
I think we can leave it because it's just an example for us to think out the SMART goals,
Well,
the
great.
SMART part of the goal. So as Jody has in there, the action steps. First of all, we're going to define the 10 sessions online for the training, right? So part of that action step is going to be broken down into 10 sub action steps. Then the responsible party, like you stated, Lion Chris, is going to be a variety of lions leading the different action steps. So when we're thinking of that, who also, other than the different lions leading the action steps, would we possibly need to make the Zoom trainings happen?
So your IT director, if you have an IT director in your group, your
Yes.
marketing people, if you have a marketing person in there, and then your secretaries, as far as like being able to help out and get a lot of this information out.
Zone chairs.
Zone chairs.
And I actually am leading you astray because the team members are actually a part of the required resources. So the responsible party is going to be basically the chairperson, and the required resources are going to be the team members. So who would we like to be our responsible party for this goal?
This would be probably the district governor and the GAT team, right? That way, because that's what you're trying to push or to be able to train for, is for your GAT team.
Great. So we're going to talk to our GLT, see if this is something that they would be willing to take on. And then under our required resources, we're going to include the GAT team, right? And this is the way of helping you as the district governors keep reminding yourself, not everything is on your plate. You have this team. And we're going to, when you look at your goals for your year, your district goals, and that's one thing I really appreciate now, is that my first year as a group leader, we had the district governor goals, We have the leadership goals, we have the membership goals, we have the service goals. No one put them all together, and that is what the GAT team is. We had all these silos. So remember that these are no longer silos. We're all a team. They're not district governor goals anymore. They're district goals. And so this is a great way to remind yourself, bring in the group leader. Now the group leader, or excuse me, the leader chair may not chair the entire, or may not be the presenter every time, but they're going to ensure that this happens. So we have just a few minutes left. Our goal is to train the leaders. We're going to define the 10 sessions. Our GLT is going to oversee this process with all the use of all the team members. What other resources do we also have that's available to us along with team members? The Lions Learning Center, all the resources online through Lions Clubs International. We also have the USA Canada Forum, their university, the Lions University. Also remembering that we have funding through Lions Clubs International for grants, for leadership grants. So these are all resources that we want to keep bringing up, keep bringing to the forefront.
Another resource is the multiple district GAT.
Thank you. Yes, the multiple district GATs. The multiple district GLT that may have some information on this.
Hi, Jenny.
Yes.
Can I chime in just for a short discussion item as it relates to the goals with a specific objective to train 10 Lion leaders? You're probably going to want an action step to either brainstorm and individually identify and invite specific Lion leaders and or have other promotion activities as part of those action steps. And I know a lot of our goals are set up that way where we're looking at getting a certain amount of people to attend or to show up. And we need to kind of look at it from that aspect as well as carrying out the training.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Much more specific in our goal setting. So when would our begin date be on this? Let's say we were doing this for this coming Lionistic year. What would be our begin date? Any thoughts?
Now.
Exactly. So just pretending that the world's perfect and we're going to begin, you know, April 1st, let's just say, let's pretend it's not April and we want to start getting them together. And then when would our final date be on this? What would a measurable goal, what would be a realistic goal being on these 10?
Probably around April, May, or whenever that lasts. You want to try to get it through before the your next, I'd say probably before your next convention.
Yeah, so let's get that done in the next 10 months to prepare for our Lion leaders so that we're not inundating them with 10 Zoom meetings in 3 months or something like that, right? Let's make it achievable. Let's make it realistic. And then how often do you think we're going to assess how this is playing out, how this is working? How often would you like to assess this?
Probably reassess after every training session to see, one of the steps would be to reach out and give surveys to the different, how the session went. So that way we could readjust for future. And if we have other people coming in, we could actually readjust to better provide better solutions for them.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Evaluations are so very important. And then alterations, when do you think we can do those? How is that going to happen?
That should be ongoing, and when you get the feedback, make the adjustments.
Thank you. So the Leadership Development Division at Lions Clubs International designed the goal setting, the introduction to the SWOT analysis, and the action planning to achieve district goals e-learning courses to provide the foundational learning for you and your team as you develop your goals and action plans. And don't be afraid to go back and revisit those and relook at those. The Global Action Team provides several resources, obviously, to assist in developing the goals and the action plans. These include your district goals webpage, because that is going to be fluid throughout your year. The district strategic plan workbook that you've all been encouraged to work on, and the sample action plans booklet. So as part of the global membership approach, the build a vision, build a plan steps include helpful PowerPoint presentations focused on conducting a SWOT analysis and developing the goals and the action plans. This was just a smidgen, kind of hard to do a lot in a very short time, but your global action team will provide you, if they haven't already, with the global membership approach training. And I think most of you have already had that. Then you and your team will develop these goals, action plans. While these presentations and the global action team led trainings are specific for membership, you will learn that the SWOT analysis can also be used to develop your service, LCIF, and leadership development goals. So thank you for helping me.
Hey, Jenny, before you wrap up, can I just give beg you to do the action plans? So for many years, I've been involved with, between my own year as governor and council chair and all the other things, and all of us on this call that are group leaders. And I will tell you that so often we put a lot of effort into putting our goals in place. And then as we're setting the goals in the system, we put some semblance of an action plan together that then goes into when you, as district governor-elects, input your goals. Here's the deal. Inputting and spending the time on those action plans is so important to the success of you reaching your goals. I can't stress that enough. And I'm going to point out, it's not just for your year. Here's the reality. How many of us have no idea how a committee that we have at the district level got the job done? They just did it. And a few years from now, and next year, your GMT or your GAT team has changed over. They have no record of what happened the year before necessarily. These action plans not only give you the roadmap for this year, they provide the historical reference when you hand off this committee to someone else, that they can go back so they don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. You do not have to create this action plan all on your own. As a matter of fact, you set the goals with the committee leader, and then that committee leader should be creating that action plan that you review with them. When you do that, they have buy-in, they take ownership. It's not your plan, it's their plan, and it's our plan, quite honestly. So I can't stress enough how important those action plans are. And please find the time, take the time, and find a way to get them back in to the district level so they can be handed down to future chairs of whatever committee it is. So thank you. Little soapbox issue for me.
And that's excellent. Thank you for reminding us that that's the history of how we got here, because everybody hates reinventing the wheel. That's not stealing. It's not borrowing. It's making that path to get to the destination, to get to the goal. And having due dates is so important, because how many of us, if we don't have due dates, we don't get it done or we don't complete it until the night before our next cabinet meeting. So if my goal is that every cabinet project chairperson will visit 3 clubs, do you think they're going to get that done in the first 3 months? They're going to get it done before the end of the year. So give the goal dates. So thank you, everybody. Again, a lot in a little time, but appreciate, and just again, keep remembering all the resources that are available to you and for you, along with those of us group leaders that are sitting on the meeting this morning. Thank you.
All right. Well done, Jenny. Thank you.
Nice job.
The next item on our agenda is a quick overview of the 2023-2024 global priorities. And in a moment, there we go. Jody's getting us set up there. As a caveat as we get started, I would like to emphasize that we are all still charged with supporting the current year priorities through June, and to not get out ahead of our headlights in promoting next year. So the information we're going to share in just these next few minutes, as well as the the video that's available for you about our incoming international president's branding and priorities are sensitive materials that should not be publicly shared or posted on social media platforms until it's rolled out publicly by Lions International. So for that reason, although they recorded the global priorities briefing at St. Charles, instead of just giving us Zoom or other video links, they have uploaded that into your first vice district governor elect learning path on the Lions Learning Center, and you can watch the video there. And you can see we've kind of already given away a little bit of the um, emphasis for next year with all of our group leader backgrounds, which will promptly be changed after this session so that when we get on our next Zoom meetings, we're not giving away anything about next year's emphasis. So our Lions motto will always be "We serve." But the messaging for Lions next year is going to emphasize changing the world, one life, one relationship, and one community at a time. There are 4 different priorities from the session that we're just going to give you a brief highlight here of that emphasis for our kind of focus for changing the world next year. The first of those is environmentally related and increasing our impact and our service in our communities in having a positive impact on the environment and getting others in our community involved, as well as supporting all of the global causes that I mentioned in the service project planning aspect. The second priority is gets back to empowering Lions to serve and helping us to reach our potential in service and the impact that we can have in communities. So part of this is through increasing the membership so we have more hands to provide more service, but also helping our existing members reach their potential and their passion for contributing in the communities, as well as kind of reminding us and reinforcing the need and the emphasis to be inclusive and address the diverse needs of our membership and the unique aspects of our communities. The third priority expands that emphasis on what we can do as a broader organization and the impacts that we can have beyond our Lions clubs. Part of that is you see item number 1 there, be the leader in giving. And the vision for Lions Clubs International is to be the global leader in community. Oh gosh, they reverted it a couple of years ago, and I had the prior vision committed to memory. But the important part for here is global leader. So there's things that we do at the club level, at your district levels, and then beyond that build upon that to be seen as a global leader. It also addresses our support and focus of the Lions Clubs International Foundation. We'll hear a little bit more about that from group leader Jenny later on. And again, it also reinforces, I think it was in Jody's session, where we're talking about the actual needs that are important to your communities and how we can make that impact and empower good by focusing on where there are needs. The final priority has to do with messaging and getting the good things that we're doing and the impact that we're making out into the world through promotion, incorporating marketing, and sharing our story in all aspects of the service that we do. One, to help bolster our membership. I mean, I feel great when I read about the things that other Lions clubs are doing around the country and around the world. But, it also feels pretty cool to see those features about my own club or nearby clubs that I know the individuals that are associated with it. So we can kind of bolster our membership perspectives and energy around what we do as Lions, while also raising awareness of the impacts that Lions have to people who might not otherwise be aware of that. And I think we're going to be hearing a lot more with the new LCI emphasis of combining the foundation and the International Association on the branding aspects. So those are the kind of the 4 key priorities associated with leading or being the change as we have on our backgrounds, and focusing on changing the world as Lions, which is really a great segue into the next topic that we're going to pick up upon. You know, Vice President Patty is going to be kind of telling us, she has already told us through the group leader seminar and some of the newsletters that you've seen since then about this emphasis on changing the world. So it is only appropriate that we focus some time on leading change, because no change isn't easy. It doesn't come easy for very many people. And so I would like to welcome group leader Nicolin to give us an overview of that topic from St. Charles.
Okay, thank you so much. Jody, you can put on my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so we just heard from Wendy, group leader Wendy, that we are expected to be the change, that next year we are going to be talking a lot about change. And so today's session is slightly different from being the change. It shows you where your focus is going to be. You are expected to lead the change. Now, you know, in the 20th century, there was a lot of change. And people felt, oh, well, you know, this was a great century. But I'll have you know that since the pandemic, change has been phenomenal. The rate of change since the pandemic is something that has not been seen at any time in the history of the world. So we are actually existing at a time when our environment is not just changing, but it is changing at a very fast rate. The pace, as I said, is phenomenal. Not only is it phenomenal, but it's happening at so many different levels that it's now being called pervasive. And it means that we have to react to these changes. Before we are finished with one, there's another one that's coming up. So we are finding ourselves, you know, Lions, and you're going to be district leaders at a very important time. And any change that we hope to achieve has to be planned, and it has to be led by you, the district governor. So that's my opening piece for you. And Jenny, Jody, let's go to the slide. Now, seeing the slide reminds me that the information that I'm sharing with you today is pretty much a presentation rather than an interactive session, because you've seen all of this before. And I'm taking it for granted that you have all done your pre-assignments, you've looked at the information, so there is nothing new here. However, I would like you to jump in whenever you have a comment or a question, because that's what I'm hoping that we can clarify today. So everyone had an opportunity really to look at this quote that I have selected for us to look at now. It's by Helen Keller, and it says, "A bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn." Would anyone like to share what you thought about that quote? What does it mean? What does it say to you?
But you need to adapt to the things that turn up along the way in your plans.
Okay, you need to adapt. Anyone else?
You have to be
willing to change.
You have to be willing to change. And Liz, you were about to say.
Yeah, everything's not always black and white. Look for alternatives. Look for opportunities.
Okay, I think a great term that you used there, Liz, was look for. You've got to be alert. Now, really, with the fast pace that I just talked about, we can easily miss the turn and end up going off the road. Because if you miss the turn, just look at the picture. If you miss the turn, you're going to be going into the bushes. And really, as a district leader, you have to look for what is going to come around the bend. So there's a level of alertness that is necessary if you are going to be leading the change. Because you see, if you really don't adjust to what's happening around you, you are really choosing to stop instead of moving forward. And that's really what's important for us in this quotation from Helen Keller. And you will find it easier to change if you have been looking ahead rather than waiting until the bend has come upon you. So that level of alertness is necessary in that when you look at the quotation. Okay, so the next slide shows us our session objectives. To describe why change is necessary if we are to stay relevant, to define change leadership and the responsibilities of a change leader, and to use a goal-oriented change management tool to lead change. So we're really looking at 3 areas. 1, the need for change. 2, change leadership. And 3, change management. Now, effective leaders realize, as we said a while ago, that change is inevitable. And great leaders actually seek out change. I want to repeat that. Great leaders actively and actually seek out change. So we are looking for you as leaders to seek out the change that is necessary if your districts are going to continue to be relevant. So the next slide reminds us of our pre-assessments. You were ready to look at changes that you've had to make over the last year, and I'm sure you've had quite a few. Reflection on 2 quotes. I chose one of them. We just looked at that. You looked at the S-curve model. You looked at responsibilities of change leaders. And you also completed the e-learning course that covered Jeff Hyatt's change management model. So that's why I'm saying to you that the information today is not new. We're just making sure that everyone is on the right page with respect to this. So our next slide is the S-curve graph. Now, this is a concept that describes how the old ways mature and are replaced by new ways. It is a graph that shows the phases that an organization would go through and would have to repeat in order to remain relevant and sustainable. So let's have a look at the graph. Let's go forward one, Jenny. Jody, I keep calling you Jenny. So this is showing us the relationship between time on one hand and the innovation. We've taken this model from what we know happens in organizations. And we are really saying we need to look at our district as an organization. So as it starts, it continues to grow. It reaches a point of maturity. What happens at that point is that because of both internal and external factors, the growth rate starts to steady out. So at that mature point, you might be going well, but you can't go any higher. You will note that the only 2 options are to either innovate and go up, continue on the upward trend, or to decline. And this tells us that you must innovate in order to thrive and go into the future. Maturity is not the answer. And this morning we heard a lot about senior lions thinking that what you're doing, and you've done it for so many years, and it's what we need to continue doing. But the statistics tell us that when you mature, if you don't find new ways to do things, you're going to decline. Let's go back to the previous slide, Judy. Okay, and this shows us that we are actually taking several leaps. So what is happening here is that, yes, we're going to mature and we're going to reach that point where we have to innovate. And we continue growing, and then we reach that point of maturity again. So this tells us that we can't sleep on the idea of change. We just can't say, well, we are at a good point. We are at a steady state but the value starts to diminish. And in a little while, we look and see how we know that our value is diminishing. But what's happening here is that we are looking at innovating along the way. In other words, innovating, it doesn't just happen once, but we have to keep doing it if we are to continue being successful. These turning points where we reach maturity, these really are critical points for you. And the success of your district will really depend on your ability to recognize these maturity points, these turning points, and then take the right steps to put your district back on track with the right kind and the amount of momentum. Because what you want to do is to fuel further growth. Now, experience tells us that only between 50 and 70% of planned change efforts, well, as much as 50 to 70% of these efforts can fail. So how can you improve those odds? You can become an effective change leader by devoting considerable effort to engage everyone involved in the change. Also remember that people need time to adapt to change, no matter how fast moving that change initiative might be. So this idea of maturing and leaping forward is something that you'll be doing in your year. Next slide, please, Jody. Okay, no. Before that, right. So what we have to do then is innovate. To innovate means that you have to find ways of doing things differently. New ways, new methods, new ideas have to come into play. And what happens if we do not innovate? And I'm sure I can get some responses from the group. If you don't innovate, if you don't find a way to make that turning point go up instead of down, what happens?
You'll become extinct.
Extinct, very good word. Anything else? How can we know that we are becoming extinct, or let's say becoming irrelevant?
We would continue to lose members.
Absolutely. We just talked earlier about supporting members. And if we aren't providing a feasible opportunity for people, something that makes them happy, something that makes them want to stay, we are becoming irrelevant. We will lose members. We will also reduce the impact of our service, because in our communities, people are not going to see us as a powerful force that we can be. So we need to change the old ways and ideas for new ones. And this means that you have to have a vision for your future. A while ago, we talked about your action planning for achieving your goals. Most of you did that e-learning course. And within there, I'm sure you've seen things that you want to change, that you think need changing in your district. Because you have a vision for your district at this stage. You know that come the end of the next fiscal year, you want your district to be a little bit different. What is your vision for the future? Your vision will include change, and you have to lead that change. Next, please. So, in other words, you have to become a change leader. What are some of the ways in which you can become a change leader? First of all, I have there, practice thinking positively about change. Now, for many of us, this requires a mental shift. We don't like change. We are comfortable with the old ways. And this can lead us to think of change in a negative way. But if we are to lead change, if we are to become change leaders, first of all, we have to assess ourselves and see how we feel about change and make sure that we find ways to think positively about change. We also need to understand the meaning of change leadership. And we need to take on the responsibilities of a change leader. As I said, all of this is information that you would have covered in your pre-assignments, but feel free to stop if you want to discuss anything further or ask a question. Next. What is change leadership? We have a definition here that's selected for us by the curriculum specialist. And it says, change leadership is the ability to influence and inspire action in others and respond with vision and agility during periods of growth, disruption, or uncertainty to bring about the needed change. What are some of the words that leap out at you in this definition of change leadership?
Inspire.
Inspire, absolutely. People will be looking to you for inspiration. Great, any other?
Vision and agility.
Yeah, with vision and agility. So you are expected to respond not just in a half-hearted manner or taking your own cool time, but you are expected to respond with vision. As I said before, you've created that vision because of the changes that you want to see in your district, and agility, quickly during periods of growth, because you'll be growing, disruption, because we don't know what's happening in the world, but we have to be prepared to deal with disruption or uncertainty. But in all of those times, people are looking, if you want to bring about the needed change, change leadership has to show the ability to influence, inspire, and respond. So that's what's expected of you as you demonstrate change leadership: to influence, to inspire, and to respond. And I think that this is a definition that is really, that covers everything. And change leadership, looking at change leadership, it really is a proactive approach to change management. Change is going to be seen as an opportunity for growth and improvement, rather than just doing something for the, just say that you're changing. So it's an opportunity for growth and improvement. Okay, so I think we can move to the responsibilities of a change leader. So we looked at change leadership a while ago, and we're now looking at the responsibilities of a change leader. You are expected to create a vision for change. Well, I chatted on that a while ago. But you want to create the vision for change, not by yourself, but with a team acting on a shared vision. And the important issue here with creating a vision is that it should be done by a team, and that you have a shared vision. Having a shared vision is so critical. Your vision, that's yours alone. But when you have a shared vision, other people are buying into it, they help to create it, and you will get much more support for that vision if it is created by a team and if the vision is shared by your district. But it really defines what the district will look like after the change initiative is complete. So the next responsibility is to develop a story for change. International has been talking to us about storytelling, and there's a reason for that. People always react to stories. Stories impact on them. They have an impact on people. And if you want to give people something to strive after, create a story around that problem or that situation. So we expect you to craft a story for the change. This story acts as a map during the change process, and it defines the transition between before and after. And it really offers a narrative that people can understand. So that's the reason why we recommend developing a story for change, because stories really affect people emotionally and otherwise, and they create a bond And the story, as it said earlier, provides a roadmap for people to understand what the change is about. Embody and embrace change. You need to be the first to embrace the change. People need to see you doing the change. When you commit to that change, you are providing an example for others to follow. And similar, well, the obverse is correct. If you don't embrace the change, people will not follow. If leaders don't commit to change before others, then it is likely that no one will follow them, because actually people will follow if you're leading. But if you're not leading, what will they follow? So that issue of embodying and embracing change is critical. Earn support and trust. Well, leaders lead because others follow them. They don't simply mandate change. You have to have the right traits in order to earn trust instead of giving orders. People don't want you to order them. They want to support you and they want to trust you. And of course, this means that you have to have integrity. And we have a lot of those traits in one of the handouts in your manual. But earning support and trust is critical for the change leader. And the final responsibility we have here is to propel change forward. You must actively propel the change. You must define agendas, you must be thorough, you must overcome resistance to change, and you must push teams when necessary. So you can't just leave them to their own devices, but you have to be seen as someone who defines the agenda and helps them follow that agenda. So that's the issue of propelling change forward. Now, we were told that we want to look at a change management model, a change management tool, again, that we are adopting from management theories. Jeff Hyatt, his model, you did it in the e-learning and it is in your manual. When what he has said is what we know, that there are states of change. And if you look at change as having discrete states, then it's easier for you to deal with it. So the first phase is the current one. That is how things are done today. It defines who we are. It may not be working well, but it's familiar to us and comfortable because we know what to expect. But a critical thing there is that it may not be working well. So how things are done today is the current. And then we have the transition stage. This transition stage is said to be messy, disorganized, unpredictable, and constantly in flux. It is generally emotionally charged, with emotions ranging from despair and anxiety to anger, fear, or relief. The transition stage requires us to accept new perspectives and learn new ways of doing things. Thanks for that information, Wendy, on the tab where this is to be found. So that's the longer serving members are often afraid of change. They don't understand it and they're afraid of it. And we will look at reasons why people, we look at some of the stages through which people go before they can actually accept change. So transition is messy and sometimes, and it's difficult for some people, emotions get into it, but the future is how things will be done tomorrow. That's the future stage. It's where we are trying to be. Sometimes it's not fully defined and it can shift while we are moving, and there's nothing wrong with that. We saw that SMART goals can be made smarter by evaluating and revising. And so we can be moving through the transition stage. We are allowed to shift, but the future stage is supposed to be better than the current stage in terms of performance. But the future stage is unknown, but we are going at it because we believe that it is better than the current. So these are the states of change as defined by Jeff Hyatt. Any comments on these states? Well, let's move to the actual 5 stages, the outcomes or the stages necessary for successful change. We just looked at the states of the change process, but here we are looking at the stages through which individuals go in order for change to be successful. Individuals really need to achieve, if individuals are to achieve lasting stage, they have to go through lasting change, they have to go through these 5 stages. So the 5 stages are necessary if the stage in an individual, if the change is to be lasting. We have them written there: desire, ability, knowledge, reinforcement, awareness. But what we can say is that next slide, the 5 stages: awareness of the need for change. Awareness of the need for change. In other words, if you are asking me to change, I need to be aware of the change. I'm asking, why is this change happening? What is the nature of this change? What is the risk if we don't change? These are the questions that people ask, especially the last one. What is the risk if we don't change? Because they're so comfortable that they want to stay in it. But what is the risk if we don't change? And that, I think, is critical for you as governors, to show people the risk if they don't change. Because I think when you appeal to them, when you show them the risk if they don't change, then they say, well, yes, I think I want to try this, because that risk is something I'm not prepared to take. So this business of the awareness of the need to change, it's really, why is it happening? What is the nature of the change? And what is the risk if we don't change? The second is desire. Desire to participate and to support the change. Really, that's that age-old question. What's in it for me? It requires a personal choice, and it is a decision to engage and participate. It's that desire to participate and to support the change. So people have to be aware of the change, then that builds a certain desire to participate and support the change. The third is a knowledge, which really gives you information. It's really helping me understand how to change. Not just the need to change, but how to change. Training on new processes and tools, learning new skills, all of those are critical pieces of helping me get the knowledge of how to change. After knowledge comes ability. Ability is the demonstration of the skills and the behaviors. It's your capability to implement the change. It is the achievement of the desired change. Now, people will make mistakes, but if you are with them and you are able to help them demonstrate skills and you provide feedback, then they are able to change their performance, to achieve the level of change that you want, whether it's performance or behavior, skill, what have you. That ability comes after awareness, desire, and knowledge. And the last one is reinforcement. These are actions that increase the likelihood that a change will be continued. A lot of the times it's providing earnest feedback, or I should say honest feedback, recognition and rewards that sustain the change. Sometimes people really give recognition and rewards in order to make the change stick, but that's not always necessary. Very often, just the satisfaction of being able to demonstrate the skills and behavior is a kind of reinforcement for the individual. So these are the 5 stages, and the next slide tells us that the sequence is critical. In other words, awareness comes first, desire comes second, knowledge comes third, ability fourth, and reinforcement fifth. If you really want someone to show the change, that person has to go through these 5 stages. Person becomes aware of the change, person wants to be involved and to participate, person gains knowledge of how to change, person demonstrates the change by their ability, and then there is the reinforcement at the end, but recognition, you have a continuation of the actions so that the change will be continued. So this sequence is critical. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you look at the change management that we had at the start, we saw that current was the current situation, the current state, the transition state, and the future state. And if we look at the 5 stages through which an individual goes, we see that awareness and desire are part of the current stage. Awareness and desire are part of the current stage. Within that current stage, it's when you can show people, increase their awareness of this thing, make them understand why you're doing it, what's the risk of not doing it, and so you get the desire. In the transition stage, when it's messy and some things are in flux and people are concerned, and so that's when you are sharing knowledge. You're sharing knowledge with them, and you're giving them the opportunity to show their ability. That's what's happening during transition. And when you've reached the future stage, you're just providing opportunities for reinforcement. So this shows you the relationship between the process itself, moving from current to transition to future, and the stages through which individuals go while they are going through these 3 states. So in the current, it's awareness and desire. In the transition, it's knowledge and ability. And in the future, it's reinforcement. Wendy, how much time do I have?
Nicolene, this is a good time for a time check. You can take as much time as you need. We are going to be running a little bit long, so we encourage everyone that can stay with us to please do. Otherwise, of course, there will be the recording for us. So I'd keep going because this is a pretty heavy topic. There's a lot to cram into a short period of time, but it's going to be very important for our district governor-elects. So
I know, yes. Well, I'm close to the end, because I'm not doing that activity that we did in St. Charles, but I just really wanted to go through this. The next slide, I've divided us, it's a graphic that you have on page 9 of your participant manual. It says consequences for missing a stage. And I find this, I separated it because I couldn't, well, for a lot of reasons, but I find this slide to be really useful, because what it says is if a person misses a stage, you can note what that person is feeling, and then you can go back and fill up that phase. So if there is a lack of awareness, if people don't know why the change is being done, what's the risk of not doing it, and so on, if people don't know that, what you will find, you will see that they are confused. That level of confusion really comes about because the person did not go through that stage of awareness. You know, not enough time was spent building their awareness, so they end up being confused. The next phase is desire. If someone does not have the desire, you're going to find there's resistance to that change. Now, resistance and confusion, these are things that we have seen when we've tried change. What these slides tell us is why these people are at that stage, right? Why we're seeing those kinds of behavior. The person who is resisting. It's not that they want to be difficult, but we did not help them get that level of desire for the change. So if they don't have that desire to support and participate, then what we are going to see is resistance. But resistance comes because we have not spent enough time helping them gain that level of desire. Next stage is ability, knowledge. Well, I think that this is really one that we see a lot. We don't provide enough knowledge for people, give them information, training, new processes and tools, understanding how to change. All of these are necessary. And if we don't provide that, what happens is that people are either fearful or anxious. The fact is that they are not going to change because they have not had that understanding of how to change. They did not get enough training. The information was not provided. So when you see people being fearful and anxious, it's because they have not had opportunities to gain the knowledge necessary to participate and support that change. Next is ability. Oh, here is where we see frustration, absolute frustration, because you're asking me to change and you're looking for a change in my performance or my behavior, but I have not had the training, I have not had the ability to demonstrate the change. And so I don't have the capability. And if I don't have the capability, my way of responding to that is by showing frustration. So frustration then is a key for us as governors and persons assisting in the change. We now realize that we have to provide people with opportunities to show that ability, that change in performance or behavior. And the last one is lack of reinforcement. Well, you know, this is easy to understand because people just go back to their old ways. They regress. They say, listen, this is not for me. I gave it a try, but you know, we just did not bring them up to that stage. We left them along the way. And lack of reinforcement shows itself in regression, just going back to the old comfortable ways. And that's not what we want. So as it's really so easy to go back to that comfort zone. So as governors, as change leaders, I find that this graphic that shows us the consequences of missing a stage, I think that this graphic is really important. It's so useful because it shows you once you have all 5 stages, there is a likelihood of change. And any change that is missed, there is something that happens, whether it's confusion, if they're not aware, resistance, if they don't have the desire, fear and anxiety, if they don't have the knowledge, frustration if they don't have the ability, and regression if they don't have the opportunity for reinforcement. So I urge you to have a look at this slide, keep it with you, because it's going to be so useful when you try to be a change leader and you see people at these different stages, then you realize how you can help them go past that. So at this point, I think that we can look at the objectives. I believe that we saw why change is necessary if we are to stay relevant. And this actually went back to that first session on supporting membership. We saw that what change leadership means, that you have to have the agility and the vision. You have to be able to respond. And we saw the responsibilities of a change leader, embodying change, being someone that they can trust, embracing the change. And in the last piece, we looked at Jeff Hyatt's management tool, and we saw that it is a tool that will allow you to manage change. In your manual, there is a very good activity that asks you to work with your zone chairs to use this goal management tool to have your zone chairs help with the GMA. I think it's not just an arbitrary exercise. I think it's a very useful exercise that you might want to consider, because it gives you pointed questions and action steps on how to proceed with getting your zone chairs to help clubs use the GMA. And given the importance of the GMA, I want to recommend that you do that. In your post assignments, you have the reflection worksheet, traits of a good change leader, communication, ability to inspire others, enthusiasm, emotional intelligence and empathy, strategic thinking, forward thinking, decisiveness, confidence, integrity, and a very important one, self-improvement. You need to recognize that, well, all of us need to recognize that we are not perfect, far from it. There is always room for self-improvement. And if we can approach with that kind of thinking, that perspective, being a humble lifelong learner, it's not just good for personal growth, but also improves your ability to lead. Remember, you had a session last time we met on the importance of being a whole leader. So these traits are really critical, and I'm hoping that you will decide on one or two of these traits to work on in your year. How to use storytelling, I talked about that a little while ago. It's a very useful piece. And the final bit on overcoming passive resistance to change, because I will tell you that this is perhaps it happens most often that people they show a very passive resistance to change. They don't come out overtly and say, I'm not for that, but they will find a way to be resistant in a very passive way. So the next slide, I think I talked about it already. I said something about reflection. Yes, reflection. Go through these post assignments. They are meant to help you improve. And I just want to be sure that everyone takes this seriously. It's an opportunity for you to improve as an individual and as a change leader. Are there things that I'm leaving out from the? No, I don't think so. All right. I was just looking at the chat. So I think at this stage, it's just to say thank you and good luck in your efforts at being a change leader.
Thank you, Nicola. I do have one resource to add. And for those of you who were in, let's see if I can get the camera to get it just right. For those of you who were in St. Charles, we had a little one-pager handout that Jody's going to add to the reference folder that will send the link out to everyone. But what struck me as we were preparing and presenting this topic was what you mentioned at the beginning. Great leaders actively seek out change, and I realized that does not come naturally to me. So as you can see, I put this in a paper protector and I keep it in my planner folder with me, because you never know where the nuances of change are going to come up. It goes through those 5 stages and gives you ways to tackle each of those. And so if you weren't at St. Charles, please be on the lookout for that little 2-page handout that will be in the reference folder. And thank you again for sharing that important topic with us. Next up, in our last topic of the day, just as a brief overview from the Lions Club's International Foundation, we're going to hear from group leader Jenny, who has been a international leader for Campaign 100 and very involved and invested in LCIF, as many of us can and have been in the past. But we look forward to hearing your remarks, Jenny.
Thank you, Wendy. So I was appointed or am appointed as the Constitutional Area 1 trustee for LCIF. So I sit on the Board of Trustees for 2022 to 2025. And as we all know, Lions Club International Foundation is our foundation. What I would really like to point out and encourage you is to talk with your district LCIF coordinators and your multiple district LCIF coordinators. They are a great resource. Just a point that your cabinet is appointed by you. Your coordinators are recommended to the Board of Trustees and appointed actually at the international level. Okay, so there is a difference there. Your final tab in your participant manual is the LCIF resources. Please, any questions you have, that is there for you to flip through. We're not going to go through because there are just so many resources online. Don't be afraid to reach out as district governors to the foundation and ask specific questions. They are there to help you, help us get grants. They are our staff. So if you're looking for a grant, don't be afraid to call and ask for assistance, because their goal is to help us use the money that we've donated. So your support as district governor is expected. And hopefully you will lead by donating, whether it be $1, $10, $1,000, whatever your heart states is able to give. I'm asking you to help me to support the foundation. And again, don't be afraid to use resources. And I am one of those. I'm here to help if you ever have any questions. So thank you for your time. Wendy?
Thanks, Jenny. I'm going to directly hand it off to Jody.
Yeah, we kind of changed things up and didn't let you know. So, just going with the flow, just like everything else, you have to change. You have to change as you move along, depending on things that happen. So I do want to wrap us up by talking about what we've done today and where we're going from here. So today we covered a number of topics that are really important as incoming governors and as you're planning. The first being, we covered membership and retention. We talked about goals and action plans. Nicklin just covered change. We covered the service project library that we're hoping you've got a plan to share with your members. We also talked about some other important areas, which are LCIF and you being an ambassador for Lions Clubs International Foundation, along with the goals and priorities for 23-24 when you serve as district governor and leader of your district. I do want to remind you that those goals and priorities should not be shared with anyone else at this point, out of respect for the current officers, both International President Brian and your district governors. This is really important. There is still 3 months or almost 3 months left in this Lions year that we are all working actively to help them attain the goals, that we are on part of that team to attain the goals for this Lions year. So keep that in mind. A recording of this session, along with resource materials, will be made available to you via email from your individual group leaders within the next week or so. Keep a lookout for it. It will provide not only the recording, but again, the resources and access to those resources. And I want to leave you with one last thing, and it's a challenge. You may have noticed that the first 2 global priorities for next year that Vice President Patty has set all revolve around service. Number 1, service with environmental projects. Number 2, just, let me get the right words here. I just looked it up. Anyways, as service in general, making sure we are living up to our full service potential. With that, I'm going to lay down a personal challenge to each and every one of you. One of your goals being to create a district-wide service project that's going to be relevant to all your clubs, that will allow them to find a new service project potentially that they can go out with their community, that's going to raise awareness about who they are and what they're doing. It could be as simple as plastic collection. It could be planting trees. It could be whatever it is. It could be finding, doing a district-wide food drive and letting each club implement it. You as a district will lay out the groundwork of what the topic is, and then let each club apply what works in their local area. So I hope you each take on that challenge and find a way to inspire your clubs to more service projects and more relevant service. With that, thank you all for the time today. Thank you for all you're doing in preparation for next year. Our screens say be the change. You are the change agent. If you aren't the change agent, no one else will be. So whatever that means for you, whatever that means for your district, is vital that you take on that role and find a way to make next year the best year ever for your district. So with that, on behalf of all the group leaders, our female team of today, and both Winster and Stewart who couldn't be with us, thank you. And please do not hesitate to reach out to any of us as you continue to work through your process of goal setting and beyond and prepping for next year. And we can't wait to see you in Boston. It's coming quickly, guys, very quickly.